This video lecture, titled Health Law, Policy, and Ethics, supports Introduction to Public Health at Orange Coast College. At the end of this module, students should be able to explain the difference between social justice and market justice, describe the potential tensions between individual rights and the needs of society using public health examples, and identify principles of public health ethics. Health law, policy, and ethics reflect a wide range of tools that society uses to encourage and discourage behaviors by individuals and groups. These tools apply to healthcare as well as traditional health. In addition, in recent years, a field called bioethics has been identified, which includes elements of both healthcare and public health, and focuses on applying morals or values to areas of potential conflict. Health law, policy, and ethics affect a full range of issues that confront us in public health. They address things such as access to and the quality and cost of healthcare. They also address the organizational and professional structures designed to deliver healthcare. Health law, policy, and ethics are key tools for accomplishing the goals of traditional public health. Let's start with some key legal issues in the United States, namely the U.S. Constitution and the branches of government. I'm sure this will be a review for most of you, but just to get it in the front of our minds, the U.S. Constitution is supreme law in the United States. The Constitution outlines our rights, and it also outlines what the federal government and the states have rights to do. State and local laws cannot be contrary to the U.S. Constitution. If there's a law that's passed in a state and someone challenges it as being unconstitutional, it will eventually find its way at the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court will rule on its constitutionality. Also, remember that we have three branches of government. The legislative branch passes statutes or laws. The executive branch is the president, and the president is supposed to carry out the law. And then the judicial branch, that is where the laws and regulations are reviewed and they can be challenged. So the legislature makes the laws, and the judicial branch interprets the laws, and the executive branch is supposed to assure the laws are carried out. In order to better appreciate the issues of health policy and law, it's important to understand some of the key principles that underlie both public health, and healthcare law in the United States. First of all, let's consider the U.S. Constitution. Individual rights are granted by the U.S. Constitution. If a right is not explicitly included or has not been found by the Supreme Court, then no right exists. States and federal courts are expected to uphold the concepts of the Constitution. The Interstate Commerce Clause of the Constitution is a major source of federal authority in public health and healthcare because it allows the federal government to tax, spend, and regulate interstate commerce. Authority is exerted by the federal government through incentives to the state. So how does the federal government give money and funds to the state and local governments and still control how the money is spent? Quite often, federal dollars are tied to certain behaviors that are enacted through laws. So, for example, traffic and road dollars from the federal government are quite often tied to laws such as having the legal age to purchase alcohol be 21 or the legal limit for intoxication at 0.08. The federal government tells the states, we'll give you money for these purposes, but to be eligible, you need to have certain things in place. Regarding specifically health, the U.S. Constitution does not mention health, and as a result, public health and health care are among those issues that are left primarily to the authority of the states, unless delegated by the state to a local jurisdiction, such as cities or counties. So you'll find with health departments, usually there's a local health department. In Orange County, it's the Orange County Healthcare Agency, and this agency will receive money from the state, the California Department of Health. Police power is the authority that allows states to pass laws and take actions to protect the common good. This allows the states to pass legislation and take actions that are beneficial to the communities at large. Rights are protections afforded to the individuals that will limit police power. Examples of rights would be rights to due process, rights to an attorney, things that are afforded to us to try to limit police power. While the main function of the legislative branch of the government is to create laws, there are 4 sources of law in the United States. Constitutional law includes not only the U.S. Constitution, but also the constitutions of the 50 states. State constitutions are often easier to amend than the U.S. Constitution, and thus can and do change more frequently. Constitutions often limit the role of government and define its processes. Constitutional law, however, does not usually directly mandate roles for government in the area of health. Legislative law or statutes are written by the legislative bodies at the local, state, and federal levels. Statutes may authorize governmental regulations such as professional or institutional licensure, require specific activities such as restaurant inspections, prohibit other activities such as smoking in public areas, or provide funding to pay for governmental services or reimburse those who provide the services, such as health care. Administrative law affects public health in many ways, from the regulation of septic tanks to requirements for immunizations to enroll in public education. Executive agencies often set up quasi-judicial processes to review contested cases. These judicial processes usually provide for limited access to the court system to contest their decisions. Case law may be the basis for addressing environmental health issues, which the law defines as nuisances ranging from excess noise to disposal of garbage. Judges' primary responsibility is to apply previous rulings or precedents to new cases that come before them. However, they may take into account existing traditions and customs of society when applying the law to specific cases. So, recently we've had some states change their abortion laws. They have even outlawed abortions altogether. People are saying that this is not constitutional because of a woman's right to her body. So these laws will be challenged, and we will find that they will find their way through the courts. And some are saying that these laws may even challenge Roe versus Wade, which was a finding that gave a woman the right to choose and legalized abortion in the United States. Let's talk about public health policy for a moment. Public policy goes beyond the individuals, and it affects a greater community. So what you'll find with public policy, that sometimes small groups of individuals will have to give up the right to do something because that will benefit the larger society. It goes beyond the individual. Health policy is part of public policy. Health policies can be made by private groups, commercial trade associations, or government organizations. We'll find food and drug laws and procedures, environmental laws, and regulations to control communicable diseases are all part of health policy. Not one single organization provides for the wording of these laws, so you can see that health policy has many contributors. They are influenced by the attitude and philosophy of government's role. Because public health requires the collaboration and cooperation of a variety of agencies, we are now going to talk about what is health in all policies. Health and public health requires different sectors working together. So, for example, we need housing and transportation to work together so that people can get to their jobs and get to the supermarkets. Where do they work? Where do they get food? Water and sanitation are also very important to health. So all these things need to work together. So in the graphic here is one example. 1 in 8 deaths is linked to air pollution. So, to tackle air pollution, we need to collaborate. We need to find clean energy. We need to have housing that has proper heating and lighting that doesn't use a lot of energy. We need certain construction standards. Industry needs to get rid of their smokestacks and do better waste management. Transportation, we have low-emission vehicles and car alternatives that can help with pollution. Urban planning is very important. Waste management, local and regional authorities in terms of planning codes and tax incentives, the health ministry or the health department, and all these health sectors drive this conversation to keep health at the top of everyone's mind. This is what we mean when we say health in all policies.